This is a clouds weather alert.
Good late Monday, early Tuesday, meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, coming on the air as we do have a winter storm warning in effect for many of our zones here across North Florida and, of course, into South Georgia. This threat here impacting everybody to some degree. So, really need to take this seriously. You see it gathering off toward the west here. Some of those different reports of snow, sleet, freezing rain in the Lone Star State, very far south from what you generally see. A very big deal here, and we're just going to be watching it as it does try to get its act together further here and move toward our area. I mean, even the hurricane hunters out there looking at some of the different atmospheric characteristics and gathering that data to put into the computer models. So it's such a big deal that this is here going to be a historic potentially for our area. State of emergency in play from Governor DeSantis. So again, it's going to be a situation where later today, later on now in this Tuesday, I know it's very early right now, 12:50 in the morning, but this afternoon and this evening, based on where you're at, you need to hunker down as this moves on in. I know we've already actually had a few reports of rogue flurries, sleet, different reports out of portions of our area. So I know out toward the Swanee River Valley, we've actually seen some social media video of some snow flurries there. And then also getting a little bit north here where we're at in Bradford County, I saw some social media video around Baldwin of some sleet. So this is, stuff that's isolated classes, further to the east. I shouldn't have a problem here today. It's just going to be very chilly as we're looking at things. But as we look ahead toward that Wednesday, I suspect most folks in North Central Florida, if not Roy, everybody will have their classes canceled for your Wednesday. Now for Tuesday and Wednesday, FSU and a lot of places in school districts toward the west already canceling for this major, major, major event. So confidence, is high that we're going to have major frozen precip impacts. There's still a lot of uncertainty, though, on exactly what kind of frozen precip in certain areas here. It's interesting just to see the variability this far along here in the overall meteorological process and this close to the event here, the big impacts. I mean, there are literally some models that are really not calling for any snow as you're looking toward areas like Tallahassee and, further off toward the east, and a lot of freezing rain potential, though. But as we're looking at other computer models, Tallahassee to the east, I mean, they're calling for half a foot plus of snow. Yeah, there are some models that are actually calling for, and I think they're factoring the sleet potential and the freezing rain potential too. But some computer models, I mean, are calling, for snow totals there to get closer to those double digits in terms of snow totals in North Florida in our area. So, those are outliers here, but it's at least worth considering there is a very high range on this, very unusual. I'm not forecasting double digit snowfall totals anywhere in our area, and I'll see you my forecast here in a few moments. But the point being is that there is a lot of variability, and you really need to stay tuned because this could really overachieve. I mean, the official state snowfall record is, I'm going to go ahead and switch right now to our winter storm warning graphic here, as you see, towards dark. I'm just watching for flurries. Most of this is ground clutter, I think, right now, but I know I haven't seen any flurries myself, but there, is that potential around even in Bradford County right now. This winter storm warning for a lot of places. It's very rare to see this here this far south and east. You see the pink here on the board. A winter storm warning. This is what you see up north, but we're seeing it down south here as we're looking at things. But I know it's just a interesting scenario because there's a very, very big range here in what we could see, as we look ahead toward the hours to come. We're going to be just monitoring everything here, giving you guys the very latest. We're going to have extensive coverage here later on that Tuesday and that Wednesday morning. This is a very big deal as we're looking at the overall situation. Very, very big impact here as we monitor things. I know, again, so bizarre to see this around, but again, we're just going to have to be kind of paying attention here because this is something that you just don't see around here, really hardly ever. I mean, you go back toward 1989, what we had toward Jacksonville, still talk about it. I mean, the late George Winterland published a paper on that about the White Christmas in '89 in Jacksonville, and really it was a historic thing that folks still talk about to this day. The snow fell before Christmas, but it stayed on the ground. I know temperatures then were a little cooler than what we're going to see now, it would seem, but doesn't necessarily preclude the event here. I mean, yeah, you can technically have above freezing temperatures like what we've seen tonight in some areas and have snowfall, at least, try to fall per se. It needs to really kind of be at that freezing point and below to accumulate, but nonetheless, just a big, big deal here. I mean, current temperatures right now, as we say, you see 38 degrees around Tallahassee, 40 at Jackson International Airport, at 39 in Gainesville, but it's down to 30 in Albany, Georgia. So you see that variability there. And Albany is one of those spots where the models haven't varied quite as much. It's looking like, I have in my official forecast, 2 to 4 inches of snow for you guys. I know the last winter weather event to even impact parts of the area was 2018. And I know Albany is kind of on the edge of that here. They missed out on the highest totals. They might this time too because there's that local variability impact. But, it's been a while. They're overdue for some of this. They did have some snow accident in 2018. There was another event a couple weeks after that, I think, but it wasn't really near as widespread and overall coverage in our viewing circles all before we started cloud weather with that. But this is the first one since we've been doing cloud weather over 5 years. And with a winter storm warning in effect here, and I mean, it is for almost everybody within our area here. I mean, this is really something that, and I mean, I gotta think, I didn't double check this, but this may be the first time Bradford's been under a winter storm warning since 1989. I would think it probably is. I didn't double check that, but everybody in our viewing area is under a winter storm warning except for Levy, Marion, getting over further east in Putnam County, far eastern Clay County, eastern and a little bit of central Duval County, St. Johns, and Flagler. Everybody else under a winter storm warning, really, everybody there except those near and east of the St. Johns River, south of Nassau County. I mean, even Fernandina Beach under a winter storm warning. But then those areas in Nassau, they're under it, as I said. But then you have Levy and Marion that are not under this. So I know, going back to the state snowfall records, the official record, I believe, is 4 inches in Milton, Florida. And they're going to have quite a bit of snow this time around, too. I know areas like around Louisiana could have even quite a bit more. It's more likely, even though some of the models are showing it east, too, more likely Louisiana really casts in on the snowfall totals in a historic way out there in that state. Just, unbelievable amounts. I mean, talking about some areas, it's likely they're going to get, a half foot or more of snow in Louisiana here. So, again, a big deal. But the state record is 4 inches, as I was alluding to here. I know, as we're looking at things and just tracking the overall situation, and I know Bradford's dark. I believe it was 3 inches back in 1977. I'll see a photo from Hampton in that event in 77 in a little bit. Not expecting that in the official forecast right now, but we'll watch, just in case if things get crazy, because the chance of, legitimate measurable snow in Bradford has increased here in the last 24 hours or so. The models really weren't showing that, but now some of them are. And like I said, some of the higher res models, not showing it too much here in Bradford, but there are some others that are showing a very, incredible amount. Again, that's not what the forecast is for. The forecast is for very little overall, but to at least see some accumulating snow in Bradford, it has been a long time, and there's a decent chance we'll at least get, at a minimum, a dusting of snow here at this point, I would think. Mixed in, though, in the ice, which is very dangerous, and potentially deadly. Mixed in with that freezing rain, mixed in with the sleet, which is not fun either, not as deadly as the ice storm potential that's mixed on in, and the models are all over the place on that as well. I mean, some range from just a glaze maybe. That's another model. It's an outlier, but it shows an inch or so of ice, give or take, which would be catastrophic. So there's a lot of variability here. It's not something we're used to forecasting here. The models aren't used to doing the calculations for this type of setup here in the Sunshine State, for goodness sakes. This is a big deal. I know we have an extreme cold warning in some of our western counties as well. That's the first one that's ever been issued. Granted, that, replaced the wind chill warning, that terminology, but an extreme cold warning, that'll be headed in toward that later period there, Wednesday from 1 a.m. to 10 a.m. So we're talking about areas like Albany under that there in Dougherty County and the like. I mean, you could have some very cold wind chills there, maybe as low as 9 degrees above zero anticipated. So, but the actual air temperatures, we've kind of talked about it. They're not going to be as cold as 89 here, as we were looking with that event. But just looking here, I mean, around Stark, maybe, mid-upper 20s later in the week, and that could depend on the snowpack, too. If there's one, especially, be more likely to the north and the west, that can influence the overall meteorology here as well. It's a bizarre pattern. Not expected to get to the 60s again until probably Sunday for those hot temperatures. It's going to be in just the 40s here today. That Tuesday, Wednesday, even lower in the 40s. Thursday might not get out of the 40s, especially if there's a snowpack here, like in maybe Madison County or over there in Ward Ware County and the like. So could be further south, of course, but, just the overall influence here in the meteorology. I mean, that area will be even colder, but it's just, it does have the influence here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the overall situation. But yeah, the state snowfall record 4 inches built in Florida, but there was an unofficial reports of more further back. But there's a decent chance the official measurement of somewhere in Florida will achieve here. I mean, first off, just even the forecast, because we could have some heavy snow mixed in at times in areas. But, besides this 4 inches, there's a decent chance I'll go over to this map, and there's certain ways you got to measure snow. I know, go to the Weather Service website there. You can maybe find it if you look around or just Google it. And there's certain way you got to measure with a snowboard and the ruler and the like for it to be official. But there's a decent chance somebody, and it may not be in our area, but somebody else further back into North Florida, around Pensacola maybe, or further like around Milton, could end up setting that official 4-inch record of snow. I know there's an unofficial total also of 4 inches in Union County and Lake Butler back in 1899 in an event where we had just an Arctic outbreak. I believe that's when Tallahassee got below zero. Not getting there this time. We're kind of on the fringes of the temperatures, but that, can lead to ice, of course, but that can also still lead to snow. Because of the, it's happening at night for our, eastern areas, which is, a perfect setup for winter weather here. So, definitely just an extreme situation here, obviously. But again, decent chance, 4 inches. The official record is in Milton, Florida, out in the Panhandle. I'll zoom on in out here, and I didn't do this ahead of time, but there's Milton right here. You can see that's where that is. I was the unofficial, no, make that official record there, I believe, as we're looking here at the overall situation. So let me double check that year, because I've been looking at quite a bit at the snowfall records here lately. That's something that we don't really talk about very much, but because it was March 6, 1954 with the 4 inches officially, but I believe it was around Jade, Florida, where the unofficial record might have happened. Maybe in the 70s where we had, more. But officially the highest we've ever had measured in Florida is 4 inches of snow. March 6, 1954. There's a decent chance somebody's going to surpass that here, in the official record books. So, crazy to think about, but ice is a bigger concern further off toward the east as well. I know, we're just monitoring it all for you here in the Weather Center on the fly. I know it's pretty late, but let me see if there's any questions or comments here. We're going to be very busy, by the way, late Tuesday and Wednesday with extensive coverage on all the different platforms Facebook, Casey Cloud WX, Facebook Cloud Weather, Twitter /Exit Cloud Casey, YouTube at Cloud Weather, and then, Twitch Cloud Weather there, cloudweather.com. So, again, just trying to keep you up to date here. Don't see any questions. We'll try to get to some model guidance here in just a little bit. But we just, obviously have a lot going on with this situation here, with this historic threat, historic situation here that I'm alluding to. We're obviously on alert mode. We turned that logo red late Thursday after. We give you that heads up. And now time is running short to prepare for this very significant event that will be for some of our area. I say in one of my graphics here that you should, stay off the road immediately after, but it may be where we have reprizes of the roads, in nights to come, based on the snow, the ice that's up behind, and that can really make things dangerous. So, it may not be just about even, Tuesday for some of us and Wednesday for most, if not all of us, not having class. It may be about Thursday and Friday having, delayed starts or no classes either. Virtual classes, depending on where we're at here and how things evolve, because there's going to be localized areas that have greater impacts here in this overall situation. That is for sure. So let me go ahead and pull up the graphics right now. I'm going to do that. And here you go. So this is a graphic update that I put together, and we had this up here. And we, on our late Thursday update, we had in our severe covered early Sunday, but I've continued to add to it because there's just so much to talk about. This is not something we're used to. We pretty much covered almost everything here at Cloud Weather the last 5 years or so, but nothing like this here for our area. I mean, we've covered hurricanes. They've been just devastating. Tornadoes that have been devastating in our area. I mean, floods. Almost everything except this. Or, some type of earthquake, tsunami weather, which would be, even more unlikely in our area than this. But, obviously don't ever want to have anything like that in, our area. But, in terms of anything impactful, we could always have a very small earthquake or something. But we did have one of those, I think, in Central Florida going back a few years or so. But as you're looking here, roads will likely be very dangerous during, at least right after the event. But it may refreeze here, in the nights to come, depending on where you're at, especially when you're a little bit colder, further, maybe up in north, areas here, the viewing circle. But the main event days are today now, Tuesday, and then Wednesday. And then I know there's still going to be a wide range possible in the totals, though. But at least from noon today, on that Tuesday to noon on Wednesday, winter precipitation, wintry precip is likely in parts of our area. In that full 24-hour range here, at least portions of the area. So, western areas earlier, eastern areas later, the general rule of thumb here. But just make sure your emergency supply kit is up to date here. Time's running out. Hunker down by 2 p.m. in Tallahassee, 6 p.m. in Lake City, 8 p.m. in Stark, and be prepared. I say, right after the event, but, you need to be prepared here almost as if you would for a hurricane. And there could be trees down. If you really get an ice storm here, there could be trees down here, folks, that, block your road, and you might be kind of stuck for a few days, depending on where you're at here. So make sure you have this extra, supplies on hand here. I mean, those trees could block your path out, and you may be stuck for a few days. That ice really comes to fruition here in terms of that freezing rain. So this is very serious here, folks. Very serious. And you need to have like extra medications ready. You need to have all this done by 2 p.m. in Tallahassee. So you have 13 hours or so to be hunkered down. Lake City by 6 p.m. So you have, let's do the math on that. So that is about 17 hours. There, if I did that right, it is kind of late, so I'm trying to make sure I do that math right here. As we're looking at that, as we're doing that, so 13 hours for Tallahassee, 17 hours for Lake City, 19 hours for Stark to hunker down here. So again, that's kind of the storyline right now. And then make sure, again, have that supply kit up to date. But then power outages will be possible Start of your devices here, folks. You want to make sure you can communicate. Granted, there could be, at least in some areas where the ice happens. Now, when the snow happens, it wouldn't be near as likely if it's mostly snow and you don't have too much ice in there. But if we get like a quarter inch of ice or more, you could really start to have, cell phone towers in some spots at least that have at least some issues. It's not a guarantee. That's a little bit more, iffy than the power outage potential setting up in a corridor around here. I know back in 2018 we had a good bit of outages around Lake City in that ice event, and it wasn't, as high end of an event that compared to what this could be. So just consider stocking up on items like milk and bread. I know you may want to have those extra blankets on hand too. I know going back to 2018, I think it was up to a quarter inch of ice in Lake City, but my forecast is for up to 4/10 of an inch this time. Now, some models go higher. If it's a forecast goes more like a quarter inch or less, I believe, here, in a lot of our areas. Some areas even less than that. But you just got to be prepared for the worst case scenario because the models are not on the same page here. And there are some models that just show, an absolute ice storm here of, just very devastating proportion. Other models show a historic snowstorm for north central Florida even. I mean, there were at least one or two that saw that, going back out to the Big Bend region and a little bit of the First Coast as well. But then there's others, and if it's a forecast kind of calls for a little more conservative, kind of hedging things, where they're not just overwhelming. Mine goes a little bit higher than that, but not near as high as the just extreme outlier models that could be right. It's not out of the question. So this is something where there's just a very big range. That's very bizarre. I mean, there's literally a model. Like I said, I try to not, oversell this here, but there's a model that's showing like a foot of snow in Jacksonville. It's very unlikely, but if that were to happen, that'd be crippling. I mean, that'd be, up there with the freezing rain, problems. Of course, it would be a lot of fun too if we had a foot of snow in Jacksonville. But there'd be some ice under that too, which could cause big problems. Because even with all that snow in '89, the stories about that were there were a lot of accidents. You had the ice first, I believe it was, and that got under that snow. So you gotta be careful here with all that. Just gotta be very careful here in this type of situation. But again, not calling for anything, like a foot of snow or an inch of ice, but those are still small possibilities of things set up, in just the most bizarre way. Even then, it would be unlikely. But just it's something to think about. Okay, so major damage to trees and power equipment could occur if we do have significant freezing rain, many accidents likely, even with just lower in numbers, just a glaze even. I remember going up, just folks trying to head into South Georgia in 2018. Not, just an extreme amount of ice was causing a lot of problems. Bridges could be very slick, and major roads may be shut down here. Now, it's mostly slow. It's mostly about snow. It might be more about staying safe by having fun, but you still need to watch out for slick spots. That slip and falls will be possible, especially if it's a little snow and you have the ice under that. That could still, result in broken hips, broken arms. It can result in even head injuries. And in addition, the temperature's warm. You gotta watch out when that sun comes out. Or you really get above that freezing point. You gotta watch out for ice, to fall off of buildings potentially that melt here. In some of these areas, the ice in some cases, that layer could just fall down here in isolated cases. And if somebody's walking underneath that here, it could cause injuries, or maybe, depending on how tall it is, if it's like, a building like in Jacksonville or something where you have, more stories for it to fall from, it could be potentially deadly. So keep that in mind. Or Tallahassee, comes to mind as well. But house fires are also more common in this situation, so you got to watch out for the dangers of space heaters and candles. And there could also be issues with pipes, especially in those areas that have longer duration hard freezes here, where generally that'd be 27 degrees and below. Now, we may actually get that more after the wintry weather event here, but in terms of the precip for our Florida counties here of north central Florida, but just everybody, when you see that 27 and below, that's when it's really imperative that you're having those pipes, protected. They need to already be protected ahead of time, obviously. Now, also generally, and there are some, discussions against this, like in Houston, because it can cause this is a water pressure. But generally, somebody like myself, in a more rural area with a well, it's a good idea to drip that water there. Drip that faucet. You don't have to turn it really, where it's just pouring out, but just have the water flowing through when you're getting to the water, that hard freeze, because that can prevent problems. But you still have a little more time too, especially in areas where maybe you're not recommended to drip the faucets. You want to try to make sure they're insulated well outside, so you can, whether you're in the city or in the county, or obviously, depending on what you have, no matter what, you can just open those cabinets up there so those pipes get a little bit more heat from the house, and that would reduce the chances of those bursting. So a lot going on here, obviously, stuff we're not used at all to talking about, or you're not used to hearing about. I mean, it's stuff that, a lot of this I know, but there's some of this stuff, even just having to read up on it, to learn for the first time. I did go through this 2014 when I was at FSU. I learned a lot back then in that winter storm. Never even really thought much about freezing rain before 2014. When I was at FSU, that winter storm, that January, I believe it was, of the ice around, it wasn't that much, and it shut down the interstate. This is probably going to be more ice in some areas. Probably going to shut down roads and interstates, even bridges. This is a big, big deal. You got to take it very seriously, because the ice can be deadly. Snow could be too. That can lead to accidents as well, but obviously snow, can be a dream as well if you handle it the right way. You can make a snowman. It can really be a lot of fun. So, unlike a hurricane or a tornado, where everything about those are just terrible, if we get enough snow here, that is something where it can really be enjoyable. It's going to be a lifelong memory. You just got to be making sure that you're staying, careful, because you might be having fun. And I'm even thinking this myself. Maybe after being on a long time ago, I did it on that Wednesday morning, and I got to be careful myself, because, tired legs and the slick ground and there's snow, and you just want to think about the snow, how great it is. For me, it'd be, if we see accumulating snow, it'd be the first time in about 25 years or so that I've seen that. Never seen that in Florida, so I got to be careful not to fall here as well, or have the ice fall, or even tree dangers. Trees could fall because of the later ice on them. That's a possibility as well here. So you gotta be really, really careful. And some of that could be starting to melt at that point, but you just gotta be really mindful of what could happen here. But yeah, the snow, myself, just thinking back. So one time here up in Bradford County, it's been almost 25 years now. I was actually born out in Texas, so I saw snow when I was very young out there. The family, originally from this part of the country, but out there in Texas, I did see snow a little bit. I remember how it felt even, and it'd be the first time that I've actually, felt it there. I know it's very cold. I remember, gloves being essential if you're trying to feel that snow, because it is very cold here. We might even try to soak some of that snow here on the air in our cut-ins tomorrow night, our coverage. If we get enough here, I'll probably have a glove on though, because it'd be just so cold. But, the only time I've seen snow here in Florida, it was, one time really. There may have been another time I was at FSU. It was very iffy, having to look under the lights to maybe see some flurries. But the other time here was in 2010 here in Bradford County. And it was something where it would accumulate there just a little bit on like a dark jacket. You'd be like a lint. So it was not much at all. Really just accumulating on elevated surfaces, you could say. Which are, more prone here in this situation, but going to be accumulating on everything potentially, depending on how this progresses. But there's that event, and when I was at FSU, it was freezing rain and sleet. So my sleet, there during that, and it was something. There was a lot of it. It was like hail, but then, freezing rain there earlier on, as, that event was progressing. Seeing that there, understanding the meteorology of that, and seeing that in the sleet later on, was both, the first time and only time I've seen that in Florida. So, seeing all three kinds in Florida, sleet and freezing rain were noteworthy. The snow wasn't, though, and this could be the first time I've ever seen noteworthy snow here in Florida in my entire life. So, this is a big deal, very big deal. We gotta be safe, gotta stay safe here. And let's go ahead and say now the current forecast for Tuesday and Wednesday. And again, wintry precipitation probable somewhere in the area. Not everybody at the same time, but there'll be big regions as, we move on. But wintry precipitation probable somewhere in the area between noon Tuesday and noon on Wednesday. So, again, that's a pretty big range, of course. Not going to be on the entire time with things. We'll be on a lot here to keep you guys informed. That's the plan anyway. We do have some backup systems in case we lose power as well. I mean, that'll, kind of cut into a little bit of the coverage. We had some issues of power intermittently, flickering during Helene. Our backup system should be able to stay on for a few minutes if that was, the case. And we, but made sure everything running a little more smoothly here. And they had some issues there where just a little flicker was causing some problems. That's possible this time, but it could be more than that. Definitely could be more than that. You got to be prepared, May want to turn the heater up in your home just a little because may have some of that power out as concern here out ahead of the event as we're moving closer and closer to the big deal here, a very, very big deal. You watch up from northern, parts of the country. I mean, it still be, some of this ice would still be a pretty big deal, but snow mountains are kind of a joke if you're watching from like North Dakota or Minnesota or a state like that. But this is a really big deal here in our area. The ice actually, that, still be a problem even up there. Or Missouri or somewhere like that. This amount of ice would still be a problem even up there if we were to achieve it here. You see, less ice of southwest Oregon in general, up to about 1/10 of an inch, but 2 to 4 inches of snow likely around like Albany. It's a high impact event there. Everybody except Palm Coast considered now a high impact event. And then Tallahassee, 1 to 4 inches of snow. That some models go a little higher than that, but ice up to a little over 3/10 possible. Now, let's say you get 4 inches of snow, you may not get as much ice, and vice versa here. So it kind of plays along. More snow probably lead to less ice. And then if you had more ice, you probably have a lower end on that snow total in terms of final accumulation. So as you look toward Valdosta, pretty similar story there in Lowndes County in that vicinity. South central Georgia, southeast Georgia, areas like Brunswick. Watching for the snow there, could be similar story in Waycross and areas in between like in Nahunta and Lake City. I've raised, range there to at least there's a chance, an outlier where you could get 3 inches of snow. That'd be a really big deal. And also there's a chance instead it could be more about the ice story, or it could be kind of in between the ice, even 1/100th of an inch is like enough to cause problems. You have a glaze, and then the more and more you get over a 1/4 inch, you really start having power outages. So we got to be alert for that. It's a possibility, but everybody's not going to see the higher end of this, but some of these areas probably will. The areas will be in the lower end of these, but you see the ice even in Jacksonville now, especially parts of like Duval, kind of the north and west sides, probably a little bit more prone based on the overall meteorological pattern here to this. I mean, in town, it may be, you may have some different precip types in other parts of the county there because of the concrete even playing a role to some degree, the, urban heat effect there. But again, you're seeing, a storyline here that is significant, up to 2 inches of snow possible in the county, and up to 4/10 of an inch of ice. Again, some models are going higher on all this stuff. Some models are going way lower, but they're also in that wintry precip chance is likely in northeast and even north central Florida as we're looking ahead to some degree. But Gainesville, I've raised the snow maybe up to a 1/2 inch of snow possible there in my forecast numbers, and the ice potential up to 3/10 of an inch. So the impact there is high, and then in Palm Coast and Flagler County, we're talking about a dusting of snow So not just flurries, but maybe, dusting's possible there now. And then up to 5/100ths of an inch, but they're not under a winter storm warning there. So not going with a high impact, medium. They could, these counties that are not under a winter storm warning, could get put under a winter weather advisory here, which means a lower impact, but still dangerous and noteworthy coming up with the event here. So winter precip probable somewhere in the area between noon today now, which is at Tuesday the 21st of January 2025, and tomorrow Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, that 12 p.m. hour is when that should be slacking off, maybe in those southeastern counties if we're seeing flurries around Palm Coast and the like. Now, as you see here, this is a graphic from the Weather Prediction Center, and they're, showing the threats. Now, they're not quite showing the exact same stuff I've been showing here. Granted, they've gone a little bit more toward the impacts being higher now further east than they did earlier. So, at least it is worth showing here now, because earlier on they weren't even showing a threat, really, in terms of severity towards some of our, southeast Oregon, northeast Florida counties here, north central Florida counties. But yeah, definitely could be hazardous here, but even worse maybe in Louisiana and Texas to some degree as well. It's about probability too, because more likely out there, just based on how the models, all agree, while there's more divergence in potential scenarios further off toward the east. But it's a very tricky forecast. Everybody in the meteorology enterprise trying very hard, to figure this out and get the message out about the danger as we're looking at things. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be something, depending on how it sets up, some of our area, let me talk about it with your kids, with your grandkids. That's how big of a deal this is here, folks. That's how big of a deal this is, as we're looking at the overall situation. This is a huge, huge event here coming for our viewing circle. So you see there is a chance of a 1/10 of an inch or higher of ice, though, in that pink circled area, which includes almost all of our area. Maybe, Albany's right on the edge of that, where the snow, again, I showed you a little bit higher on the low end of that, with at least 2 inches likely around Albany. So what a storyline this is. Got to watch out for power outages, though. And with it, being so cold, that can lead to, big problems here in that regard as well. I know these are the different kinds of precip. Snow, you're seeing it from the top there where the temperatures, they're below or at 32 in that profile. Now you can look at a skew T-plot here and figure all this out. But, in terms of what you would forecast. Now, sleet, as you're looking at the sleet situation, you can kind of see here that you have at or below 32, but then it warms. But then it, sees a situation where things refreeze here, and then you have the droplets there, form ice before reaching. Now, the freezing rain, it refreezes closer to the ground, but that's more dangerous. All three, that's the worst one. Sleet, it's not fun, but it's more like hail, smaller hail. Snow can be a lot of fun, but you got to be careful. Now, rain, it never refreezes. You get maybe the droplets there, the precipitous snow at the beginning, but then it turns into rain, and you're, always above 32 degrees up to that point from earlier on in the overall temperature profile there in the atmospheric setup. Now, as we go ahead and show you here, going back to 1977, family took some photos in Hampton from that event. We had some, snowfall accident in the region, obviously, and more so toward Jackson 189, but probably about the last time Bradford really seen any significant snow would have been probably, I know we had a lot of ice in 89, a lot of accidents, but 77, a lot of snow, Stark, I was looking at the records there, it looked like 3 inches maybe. Well, Stark recording that, in 77. So what a storyline. This is Hampton, just south of Stark, obviously. If you're not familiar, we're right here in Bradford County. By the way, speaking of Bradford County, we're at 39.9 degrees right now. It's 40 degrees. Warmed up a little bit here as we're looking at things early on this Tuesday morning. But just wanted to kind of break that all down for you there as we're continuing to give you the very latest on the situation. And there's just a lot going on here, a lot going on overall. I know some of these snowfall totals and the models could be factoring in a sleet here as well. That's why some of the numbers are higher. So that's a little bit, harder to forecast even. But that might be why some of them are just so crazy on the higher end, but others, not really seeing that, not really depicting that, and then they're lower. But I just, zoomed on in here. And our temperature, you see the range is 29 Albany, but 50 there to award areas around Mayport. That's a big range, and some of the areas like Mayport might have more trouble tomorrow night. There'll be some different temperature profile issues going on, but as we're looking there, some of those areas would be less likely in some cases to have this, but cloud cover situation will be different too. I mean, you do see quite a bit of them around right now, but there are some breaks as we're looking at things, as we're looking at the overall situation. So just continuing to see here how that's ongoing. Let me just double check. Yeah, no thunderstorm risk today. Not something where we're expecting at this point in terms of a forecast for any thunderous leaders, thunder snow, or thunder type of frozen precip. But obviously it's happened in national picture before, but it's not in the official forecast at this point from the Storm Prediction Center. As we're going ahead here and looking at the models, so I'm going to run our HRRR, and this is one of those that's more aggressive with the snow totals, less aggressive with the freezing rain overall. But let's start this off here, and this is going to be pretty, thorough, I think, here to try to explain this. So this is what the forecast radar looks like, as we're looking at 16Z. So that's 11 a.m. So I said noon to noon, but there's that small chance in our far southwest Georgia counties there. We could have a few areas here of frozen precip around 11 a.m. around Blakely. But that's, this is the very beginning. You see maybe some rain in the southeastern counties as we're watching the overall situation. Okay, so we're going to progress this. So this is going to be noon here. See, Albany starts to get into at 1 o'clock. I mean, you see the different colors here. The white would indicate snow. Then you have the pinks and then the purples here. Those are your mixed kind of precip in general. Granted, it will all kind of be mixed to some degree, but, at points it won't be, at points it will be. But in general here, you're looking at the pinks. That would generally be more of the freezing rain, and the purples would generally, but not always, be more of the sleet. So that's kind of that depiction. Let's go back to the west real quick right now our radar system's showing more of this, the pink and the white, and it's showing, the reports there of ice there, with those pink indicators. Those orange ones are sleet, but our radar's actually showing more to snow, so kind of goes to the point that HRRR or some of the other models could be interpreting some of the snow, that's occurring, or what it thinks is occurring, it thinks it's snow, the model, the radar, and it's actually sleet instead. So that's something to take into consideration. But, okay, back to the model guidance we go. You see all that snow around New Orleans and Pensacola at 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central Time. Wow, that is unbelievable to see here in action. And then your 6-hour snowfall information on the overall forecast would be yellows 3+ inches in that 6-hour period there. But let's go ahead and keep going with this because there's a lot of this to get through here for our local area. I'll keep it zoomed out a little longer, but you see this is going to be here 2 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Eastern. You see more of that snow coming into southwestern Georgia at that point. I mean, if you look at the areas here, you see the grayer whites. That's indicative of maybe not as heavy as snow, but those brighter whites could be heavier snow. You can kind of see that on this. The yellows here, that's heavier precip, and that could be snow. So we could have some pretty heavy snow at times, which could really add to those totals pretty quickly and cause some areas to have localized higher amounts than what you would think. Might be, pretty variable, pretty close by to other areas even. As you could have, quite a bit of snow very, very rapidly as you're looking at things. So definitely interesting to see that, localized snow situation escalate around here. I mean, it's just if we have so much of that coming down so quick, again, That's something we're just not used to dealing with around here. And the Panama Cities are not used to dealing with the wintry weather, but they're going to be seeing that on this Tuesday. Historic day in store that we're maybe never going to forget for the rest of our lives. You'll be talking about it like 1977's event, 1989's event, could be 2025's event here. You know, we're talking about this in 30 or 40 years. I mean, this is how big of a deal it could be in terms of the historic nature of things as we're looking at the overall meteorology. So this is the HRRR, and this is on 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Again, you see the snow and the white, and the gray, and the gray's lighter, the white heavier. Again, could get localized higher amounts here, you know, pretty quickly. Again, it could be highly variable by location. As we're looking, it's going to be harder to forecast, but as you're looking at things, it's going to be something where, I mean, the rates could, you know, really help to maximize things. You see this in a lot of events further up north, like maybe North Alabama, stuff overachieves, and with these heavier bands, that could really be something. It could be, you know, where it's hard to even, you know, see too far in front of you. It'd be like snow squall weather up north. You know, the winds may not be, you know, to that degree in some ways, but it would be something that would be causing big problems on the roads, but could also be a lot of fun if you're able to stay at home here, you know, and follow the precautions. Obviously, watch out for slip and falls as well. So, as we're kind of looking at things, I'm looking at some of the information like Quincy. You know, gusts could be there, you know, as high as 25 miles an hour, but that's pretty significant. But you know, it's not something that is like a blizzard officially, but it's something where, you know, you don't want to be on the road. That can be deadly, obviously. Whiteout conditions at times. I mean, that's something we don't talk about around here. So this is 3 o'clock on the model. 4 o'clock, you see Bainbridge to Thomasville. Thomas County getting some pretty heavy snow points here as we're looking at things, as we're looking at the overall scenario. And then as we look here, this will be taking you up there to about 5 o'clock or so. You can see maybe mixed precip, maybe more icy weather on Tallahassee. But, you know, that's still, you know, up in the air a little bit. We see in Georgia, it's more about the snow, maybe pretty heavy snow around Moultrie possibly. But again, it's going to be highly variable. This is just one model. We see some maybe pretty heavy snow out toward Panama City and Blountstown here as we're looking at times, at least, you know, within this. You know, really nasty, you know, pretty heavy snowfall at points. Not all the time, though. And, you know, when you're kind of on that edge, too, of the different kinds of precip, that can help. That edge could be where you have the higher totals here compared to, like, you know, Albany, you know, saying 2 to 4. Not seeing many models where I go over 4. But to the south, a lot of the models are going either, you know, lower or higher. So we could really, you know, be a boom or bust to the south, but Albany's pretty surefire, probably going to get 2 to 4 inches or so of snow, it would look like. So this is your precip forecast. I'm not used to putting the snow on. Here's your snow. So this goes until about, let's see, so doing my math here, this is from the afternoon up until probably about 7 o'clock or so. You see Bainbridge, that green indicates about 2 inches of snow according to this one model. But again, it's highly variable. And then as we look here, some of those other areas were less, by the way, at that point. But then you see, this gets you to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So obviously dark, making things more dangerous even. You see getting like Hamilton County with this Waycross getting into it. You know, some of this there could be a little heavier at times. Then you get to about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Look at that in Suwannee County. Lake City is one. Columbia County, they're going to be getting maybe in this, you know, heavier precip here, whether it's snow, sleet, freezing rain. Could be pretty heavy there at that point. Duval County, they're going to be parts of the area. Nassau, maybe, you know, some pretty heavy precip. And you see Stark, according to this, gets really into this around midnight, but it's some of the models so high, you know, variability within this, you know, so that's why I said 8 o'clock, hunker down by then to be safe, based on, you know, just the overall meteorology here. You want to be safe here versus, you know, sorry per se, is how the saying goes. But you see maybe possibly some heavier snow around Perry. I mean, they had all the hurricane action. You know, you got to be really careful with the wintry weather, but you try to enjoy this here too as you can, you know, making the snowmen there. Granted, a lot of this is night, so it kind of hurts a little bit, but it wouldn't happen probably further east if it wasn't at night to some degree either, but it's in the temperatures, but it's a give and take there. But you had all the hurricanes, you want to have some fun, but you got to stay safe. Maybe making snowmen, having snowball fights, you know, maybe sledding, but that's going to be something where you got to be really careful. That has been deadly before, even in one of the recent winters, trying to think it was in Illinois. You know, if you have the ice underneath that, that can cause that, you know, especially if you're not used to dealing with it, like we're not here, can cause maybe that sled to go off course. And, you know, it can result in, you know, something tragic, especially at night, too. So you got to be really careful if you're trying to have fun here. You know, I hate to be kind of the very bad news in that regard, but you just got to be really, really careful. We don't want to see, you know, loss of life here, which is very possible with an event historic like this that folks just aren't used to dealing with. We got to watch out for down power lines here too. I mean, they could be down if you have enough snow. If you're not really careful, it could be kind of under that snow here, and you can't see it, and then that can be tragic. So, as we're looking here, this is 1 a.m. You see Duval County getting into the snow, potentially Bradford and Clay at this point. But you see maybe, you know, just that wide variability. And then let's go to 6-hour snow. This model, and it varies as you look at this, but this model says 6 hours of snow at 4 inches in Waycross and 4 inches of snow in Thomasville, but still shows about a third in Bradford, a third in Duval there with snowfall at this point. As we're looking at the snow depth, that's kind of a different color table, but adds it all together based because you would be at or below freezing, you know, these areas here further off, you would think, and staying there. This shows about 5-6 inches in Thomasville, but it's, you know, this is going to be highly variable. But that's that darker green there, and then the lighter green about 4 inches, and then this lighter blue under 2, but you know, especially the really light blue is under about a half or so. The darker light blue could be, you know, approaching 2, especially further up toward the north and west. But this is to 1 a.m., but this is just one model, so let's just keep watching it. This is going to take you out to about 2 a.m. on that Wednesday morning. 3 a.m., you see more snow in maybe southeast Florida and Camden and Glen. But you see the mixed precip, the ice, maybe some sleet in there more so in north central and northeast Florida. You get out to about 4 a.m. This really especially kind of goes with a little bit more of that mixing where you have more sleet maybe further south, more freezing rain to the north, but doesn't always work out quite like that. But then you get out here to about, let's see, this will be about 5 a.m. I know on the backside, if you don't get a lot of snow first, there's a chance right as this kind of comes to an end, or even the beginning in some cases here, you could kind of get snow first before the atmosphere and that profile kind of switches over despite what the models say, because they have trouble with this type of stuff here too. So just the meteorology, you know, in theory would say, even if it doesn't show it, you see it some further in Nassau and Camden counties, but chance it could be like this in Columbia. If we don't get as much snow for a while, you could kind of get one last burst of it on the back end of this. But even on the front end, you could get it as well here. And at times in between, depending on how things switch around. It's really iffy, but, you know, still in all that wintry weather around, which can be dangerous. Under the freezing rain, you know, it can be very hazardous, obviously. I don't have that amount total in this model and this source, but I just keep watching with me. This is 6 a.m., 7 a.m. You see still, I mean, look at that. Maybe some flurries there, you know, in southern, southeastern Duval County around sunrise. We'll see, but the road could still be really slick then because of all the ice. You see at 8 a.m., I mean, some of those areas wouldn't have it quite as much to the coast, but still could have some problems, obviously. And then to just get there, unless you're already there, that's the issue too. But then you see by about 10 a.m., it kind of pushes that on out. So some of the models have tried to put some stuff back in later on, but they've kind of turned away from that for now. I'm not going to talk about that too much right now, but there's a chance later, or, you know, in the event, or I should say another, you know, period later in the week even, could get a little more freezing rain or something to move back in, but that's too iffy to really kind of get into right now. But let me go ahead, I'll put our 6 hour on. Obviously nothing there, but this is kind of the snow depth. Now, I might need to take this back a little. So let's see. So that's 10 a.m. So let's go to 7, 8 a.m. there. So this color table is different, and I'll have to kind of explain it. But this shows what we could end up having in terms of total. This is still higher end than what my forecast has, but definitely feasible here. And of course, there could be some ice mixing and sleet mixing, and it kind of is overdoing these numbers some. But this model here says about a ½ inch of snow around Gainesville. That's pretty close to what I had. It's technically a little higher than what I had for my high end, but has started getting a little over an inch of snow here as we're looking at this area here in toward Bradford. But again, that, it's highly variable. It might just be a dusting or, ½ inch, but could be, something more interesting. Could just be flurries. That's not out of the question either. Could just be some road flurries like what we've been seeing tonight. And the rest of us is ice, freezing rain, and heavy rain at points, and in the pattern. So don't get your hopes up completely for all the fun here, especially further south. But some of the rain, could kind of wash away some of the freezing rain, which could be helpful at points. But it could also, up in Georgia, I mean, this overall mixture, they put stuff on the road in some of those areas up there, but it's going to be tricky, tricky conditions as we're looking at things. In Jacksonville, 2 or 3 inches according to this, but again, this is highly variable. So it's over 3 in Lake City. Some of these green areas, that's 4 inches, Waycross, Brunswick, Tallahassee, 3 or 4 in the HRRR, but Austin, 3 or 4. Albany's only sun here, a little over an inch, but I already mentioned how it looked like some of the guidance, overall was showing more for them, but you never know. We kind of watch the overall situation. So definitely a big deal as we're looking at things. Going back to the current view, I know we have this in the super high-res mode right this second. We do have some interesting signals here starting this up again in Union and Baker. So it could have some flurries or sleet pellets or stuff along those lines. Probably not the freezing rain right now because it would be above freezing, but so it wouldn't be necessarily something you would be seeing there at this point in the meteorology. That doesn't really happen like that, obviously. But again, as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things that are highly variable, and I mean, we're going to just have to see how things go here as we're looking. But yeah, light rain, heavy rain at times could kind of make things interesting. Could have just so many different kinds of precip in here. The light rain, heavy rain, the freezing rain, the sleet, the snow. Could even be heavy snow in parts of our area here at Point, which is just remarkable to even talk about. Bursts of heavy snow in North Florida. That's going to probably happen at some point here across portions of the viewing circle. That is something I don't know if I've ever thought I would say, but heavy snow is likely in some areas at points. Might be Tallahassee, might be, even areas there like Gadsden or Liberty or it could be more outside of our area, or it could be Jacksonville even, or Lake City, somewhere like that. So there's still a lot of uncertainty here as we've kind of talked about. We're trying to nail this down for you, but it is not something that's an easy forecast because this is stuff that just not used to seeing around in this part of the country. It's a unique pattern to have this happen for sure. So again, just trying to keep you up to date here on the overall situation. Let's see here. I think I want to leave you this with my official. I say my official. Okay, there is an official forecast from the Weather Service. Mine deviates some, not a lot. I mean, the models you saw deviate a lot more in a lot of cases here for different areas. But I want to leave you with my forecast here. And you can get the official forecast, weather.gov. And you can click on your different points on the map even and get what their forecast. And my forecast isn't that far off. But this is not something I'm used to forecasting. A lot of them, not necessarily would be used to forecasting this either. Some probably are based on different experiences in the country. But still, this is not a usual, area geographically that would be seeing stuff like this. So this is my forecast here for the situation. We're going to be guiding you through this all. I'll just kind of leave you with this here. Sleet's going to mix in too. I don't have that directly on here, but some of the areas will have the sleet mix in. But the ice, big deal. That's more dangerous than the snow. But we'll be watching all of it here for you. We're in alert mode. We're here to keep you safe. We're here to keep you informed. I mean, such a big deal. I know. You can go to cloudweather.com/radar for an interactive look at things to watch the wintry precip out to the west. during the night here. I'll pop that up one more time. Off toward the west. Some of this is overdone. Some of this is not overdone, based on what's falling. Those, light blue indicators are indicating snow. I don't know if I see a heavy indicator right now, but definitely snow falling there. But you see some of this on the radar, and it shows as snow on the radar, but it's not. We're not getting the indicators around like Monroe right now, so not seeing the precip reach the surface there at this point. But I know I consider doing a stream with the radar further west overnight, but I want to make sure folks on Facebook, on Twitter, they just can get the full information without having to wait for it to end or to go over to YouTube, which you can do it. But I want to make, and back it up, but I want to make sure that you can just kind of watch this here since it's such a big deal for the local area. And we'll have, streams through the day, through the night, coverage through the, winter storm here for our area as we look ahead, and it's going to be such a big deal. But, in the overnight, you can go to cloudweather.com/radar for an active look at things as the situation transpired. I mean, Texas getting a snow event there. They don't get this too often there. You see some of the indicators like sleet there in Fayette County, Texas. So this is a big deal out there, but it's going to be something that's even a bigger deal in terms of just, it being a storyline in our area here. As we look ahead, our local viewers are obviously the most important as we're kind of tracking the situation here, trying to keep you, your friends, and your family safe and informed. I know there's affiliates, local affiliates like in Houston, are, putting out different things about the event here during the night and different, maybe radar streams or even more. I haven't really checked this if they're like doing coverage during the night, but it's something where, that's more of a local story for them out there. They get snow a little more often around Houston, but I think 2021, that event there, we had just a terrible number of power outages there in the state. And that would have been the last time they had just so, much snow there. That was even a more wide-ranging event for the state. But again, we're going to go ahead and wrap it on up for right now. That's going to do it. That's the look out west. This is going to be that graphic here as we show you the current forecast for Tuesday and Wednesday. Noon Tuesday, noon Wednesday, and I will be updating you guys. Facebook, KC Cloud WX, Cloud Weather, Twitter/X at Cloud KC. And in fact, let me go ahead here real quick. I'm going to throw that up. It may kind of get in our way just a little here. Okay, it kind of does, but I just wanted to throw this up here real quick. The different platforms that we're on. You see them right there on Facebook, Twitter/X, YouTube, Twitch. Of course, the website, cloudweather.com, and then cloudweather.com/radar gives you the very latest here on everything. But again, that is the storyline here for now with my forecast. And we're going to get through this here, folks. What a story, what an event this could be here for our area. So we're going to be here for you at Cloud Weather Alert Mode. Maybe a once, in a lifetime for some folks. I mean, so far for me, it would be, type of winter weather event here for our region. So for now, get some rest. It's going to be a very busy period ahead. Thanks for tuning in and trusting me. Stay safe for now. Could have some rogue flurries here during the night. Rogue sleet. We've already seen a little, as I alluded to earlier on. But that kind of does it for now. Could have some rogue click spots, black ice in the areas that had to rain, and you do get below freezing here tonight. Some areas aren't. Could have some of that, and that'll be something we'll have to watch later on in the week as well when we're getting, even colder with all the precip we had, as that stuff could refreeze. A lot to talk about, but for now, that's going to do it. This update will do it for tonight here. Thanks for tuning in and trusting me. I'm meteorologist KC Cloud here in the Weather Center watching things from Stark, Florida.